I love this picture. Children, Kiwi children, playing in the 100% pure alpine river, fed by 100% pure alpine snow. We know it's not really 100% pure everywhere, but we think it's close enough, right? Actually, no, it's not. And my job here is to comment really how it's simply not pure enough for us, and we actually need to do something about it. And I'm going to give you an idea for what we might do about it. Every day we are degrading our natural environment so much it's beyond repair. We're actually losing a lot of our wildlife. We're losing a lot of their habitat. We're going to lose all of it if we keep going the way we're going. We're going to lose those last 55 Maui's dolphins. We're going to lose all of our kiwi. Both those dolphins and kiwi are predicted to be extinct by 2050. Not many people know that. But while that's tragic enough, it's also not something people think about in relation to us. We don't often think about how environment affects us and our health. I just want to take one example. There's far too many that I could pick from, unfortunately. I'm just going to take water quality. We've probably been hearing for years now from Mike Joy how our water quality is being degraded so much we're losing our native freshwater fish and our eels. But it's only recently that we've also started noticing this water is making us sick as well. Our Ministry of Health estimates that every year up to 34,000 New Zealanders are getting sick from waterborne diseases. And that's actually an understatement because not everybody reports it when they get such an illness. We're not a third world country. We're not particularly industrialised. So where on earth are we getting all of these diseases from? Most of it is from the fun stuff. We see notices like this everywhere. I've seen a lot of them in the Bay, actually, particularly in relation to paralytic poisoning from shellfish and things like that. It's nasty stuff. And it's everywhere. They're in rivers, it's in lakes, swimming, boating, and now even the beaches. But this, okay, we'll just take one of them. Start with E. coli, for example. E. coli is a nasty bacteria, right? It comes from animal waste, the rear end of animal waste that gets washed into our waterways. We have a terrible record for E. coli. Over 60% of our waterways in New Zealand have got E. coli levels that are so high it's dangerous to swim in. We swim in it anyway, but it's dangerous. And in the rural areas, right, it's more like 80% that are dangerous to swim in because that's where all the animals and their waste are. But it's not just E. coli. There's nitrates and other pollutants that are getting washed into our water all the time. Right? If nitrates get into the water too much at too high levels, they can turn a water body eutrophic. Now more than half of the lakes in New Zealand are eutrophic. That simply means that there's so many nitrates, so many plants and other algae grow, right, that they take over all the oxygen and the animal life dies out. And you get pictures like this. It's green, but it's certainly not clean. This one's not even green. It's actually so toxic that horses and dogs have died from drinking the water, died from licking and eating the algae. But it's strong enough and toxic enough, it could kill children too. We're really lucky that no one has died from swimming in this water yet, right? But it gets worse. Okay, these are the wild places. All these toxins are also coming into our homes and our drinking water. Not everyone, but start with the E. coli. Right? There are a lot of people in this country that rely on bore water. 20% of groundwater sites are get infected every year with E. coli. Thousands of New Zealanders, particularly in rural areas, have to boil their water so they don't get sick. But, okay, so, and I should say, and it's toxic enough, so if you did get sick, it could kill you. And some people, of course, do get sick before they notice and test all of these levels. I think that's not good enough, but wait, there's more. We also hear about nitrates. Now, if nitrates get into your drinking water supply, and they do, particularly in the groundwater areas. But not only, if they get into your water supply, you can't boil them off, and you can't filter them out easily. And unfortunately, there are increasing levels of those as well. And nitrates, they'll kill young babies, less than 6 months old, certainly, and they can kill unborn children if pregnant mothers drink water with high nitrate levels in it, which is just appalling. We've only had one case of a blue baby syndrome, and that baby didn't die. It was noticed quick enough. But again, we should not have to wait until someone dies before we do something about it. So I could go on. There are many more examples. It's not just water. We have an extremely high pesticide load in this country, and that gets into our food and our bodies. We have high fertilizer loads, and that gets into our food and our bodies. We've got some of the highest cadmium levels in the world in our bodies, and most people are surprised about that. We have toxic fracking waste residues that get around. We have some of the highest asthma and allergy rates in the world. And it's like this environment is already making us sick. We really need to do something about the environmental damage and do something different. And that's where I come in. I thought, why don't we try something really different? Let's try human rights law. A little bit out of left field, right? Why would I think of human rights law? Well, human rights are designed to actually solve human problems. They right wrongs. Just take one example as an illustration. Slavery is one of the worst violations of human rights, and it was really rife in the 16 to 1800s. But we got rid of it. We got rid of slavery by creating human rights laws against slavery. And that was despite it being a major part of the international economic order at the time. But we got rid of it, making and creating a new right. All of our human rights have actually been created in exactly the same way. We see a problem and we create a right to try and solve it. We've done that for workers' rights, for women's rights, for children's rights, for equality rights. Right? Unfortunately, the flip side of that is if you don't see a problem, then you don't get round to creating a right for it. We have human rights laws in New Zealand. We have a Bill of Rights. We have a Human Rights Act. They don't have environmental rights in them. We simply, when we made those laws, didn't see environment as a threat. We assume it's still going to continue to give us clean air, water and food. Why would we need to worry about it? And that's why I say with the environmental damage, I don't think we can forget about it. Take a recent example, the caregivers pay claim case, where some family caregivers of disabled children took the government to court over their really low and no pay. They'd suffered 4 years, right, with low or no pay, and they finally said, hey, this is not fair, it's against our human rights. So it was actually the Human Rights Commission that took the government to court for them, and they won the case. So human rights law was very effective at solving that particular problem. If you take another example, I've got one in relation to water. We have a right in our Bill of Rights Act not to be subject to medical treatment against your will. Right? So when some people in South Taranaki thought that they didn't like their district council fluoridating their water supply, they took them to court. They said, under the Bill of Rights, we have a right not to be subject to unwanted medical treatment. Fluoridation violates that right. Now, the court didn't agree with them. They actually lost the case. They thought it wasn't a violation, but they still got to go to court in the first place to make their arguments, right? And that's the power. You actually get to put your case before an impartial judge to make a decision as to whether the right's been violated or not. But think about this for a second. You can go to court over water with fluoride in it for healthy teeth, but you can't go to court over water that's got E. coli in it that makes you sick and could kill you. You see why maybe we could do something slightly differently. Overseas, human rights laws in relation to environment have actually been really popular. This is a map from 2012. It shows 178 countries out of 193. That's 92% of the world that recognise a human right to a healthy environment in some form or another. Some of them are in the constitutions at the highest level of law, some are simply in ordinary statutes, and others are in treaties they're bound by. but they recognise that right. Some countries go further, and in their constitutions they have a whole range of environmental rights, but not New Zealand. We're not one of them. What would a healthy environment look like? A right to a healthy environment look like? It's usually just a short, simple statement like this. All human beings have the fundamental right to an environment adequate for health and well-being. It's a fairly general statement, but all human rights statements are. They look kind of like that. But human rights law has developed a set of tools over the year to make the rights more meaningful and more comprehensive. And there's particularly 4 aspects that have been developed just under the general rubric of environmental rights law that also then apply to environmental rights. The first one of these is the concept of respect. Everyone has to respect a human rights law, including the government. So if it was water, the government wouldn't be able to dump pollutants in water itself. Aspect, protect, right? The government has to protect the right and stop other people from violating it. So in relation to water, you might pass regulations and other laws that stop pollution, perhaps by regulating the activities, environmental impact assessments and monitoring to make sure that others don't pollute the water. The third one is fulfill. All right? And so to fulfill a right implies an active sense of protection, where you might have to actively uphold a right. So in the water case, to actually pass positive standards, minimum standards of water quality, actually establish drinking water treatment plants. So positive actions comes under fulfill. And then finally, remedy. When things go wrong, you actually have to stop what's going wrong, fix it, and punish those who make it wrong. So in the case of a water right, just as an example, since we've been looking at water, you might have to clean up a polluted water catchment. And you might have to punish those who actually did that pollution in the first place. There are lots of examples overseas. Overseas studies have found it's been amazingly helpful. Once you start with the ordinary right, a human right to a healthy environment, you find that governments then start passing more laws generally to protect the environment. They also, interestingly enough, end up with a lot of court decisions making statements about what the right entails, and the government ends up having to implement a large number of policies to better protect the environment. And then, of course, you get enforcement. You get a lot more monitoring and enforcement. Partly it's in people's eyes, but partly the courts are telling them we've got a standard that you've got to uphold, and we're going to make you uphold it. And there have actually been thousands of court decisions overseas that give us a really good idea of the kinds of things that you could do with a right and how effective they can be. This is a European example, and in Europe, the European Court of Human Rights has had a human right to a healthy environment, making environmental rights protection decisions under the human rights framework for more than 20 years. And they've got more than 20 cases across European member states. They have been forcing polluting activities to stop their pollution. And they have a whole wide range of activities, from waste plants, waste treatment plants, power plants, mining activities, factories, even highways have been forced to stop polluting. They haven't stopped the activities themselves generally, they just make them do it more cleanly. It's been really effective. In Argentina, they have a human right to a healthy environment in their constitution at the highest level. And there, the Supreme Court has actually issued a number of decisions in relation to a very polluted and also very large water catchment. They've ended up, the court has made a number of orders. The government has had to stop the pollution, has had to clean up polluted areas like these ones, has had to stop, refashion the whole drainage system, has had to put in water treatment plants for drinking water, has had to put in sewerage treatment plants. They've had to establish monitoring and inspection stations, and then hundreds of them, and then appoint inspectors. Before these court orders, there were 3 environmental water monitoring inspectors. After the court orders, 250. And today, the Supreme Court in Argentina is still holding public hearings to make sure these orders are being fulfilled as a monitoring function. So it's been very effective there. This is Manila Bay in the Philippines. And you can see from this picture, it's extremely polluted and needs a lot of cleaning up. And the Philippines Supreme Court had a similar human right to a healthy environment that they used to make a similar set of orders to Argentina. And they've ended up cleaning up the pollution. It's just, you just can't ignore it anymore. So you can see it's been extremely effective overseas. In fact, it's changed the international legal landscape, right? And New Zealand has been oblivious to it, unfortunately. If we were to adopt a human right to a healthy environment, I have a favourite. My favourite's the French Charter. The French Charter, it's a whole charter, it's not just one little teeny statement that I showed up on the screen before. The whole charter of 7 preambular paragraphs, 10 articles, covering all the different aspects of this human right to a healthy environment that a government really has to uphold. So I'm not going to read it out, it's kind of long. But French President Jacques Chirac commented when introducing it that it recognises that we can't survive without a healthy natural environment, right? And it calls on everybody to adopt an attitude of responsibility over the environment for the sake of future generations. So it's a human rights framework that imposes responsibilities. Right? So it's been very effective in that. In France, they've had it now for 10 years, and it's done exactly what I suggested that these laws do. They've made the French Parliament pass a whole bunch of other environmentally protective laws and policies, education programs, and it's been changing not just minds, but also the state of the natural environment itself. So you can see, I want one of these in New Zealand. Right? If maybe we didn't feel that we could manage to pass a whole charter with like 10 of these articles, that would be great. But even if we just had one teeny little statement that we have a human right to a healthy environment, we could put that in our Bill of Rights. And we might find that we could then have a much more effective guarantee at getting us our healthy water, air and food for future generations as well as ourselves. New Zealand made its constitution in the 1800s, it's the 19th century, right? It was in the 20th century we added our human rights laws. And now we're in the 21st century, we can see the kind of damage and the challenges that we face to our environment. I think we need a new set of laws to meet these challenges in the 21st century. We need a healthy right, a human right to a healthy environment to better guarantee this clean air, water and food, not just for ourselves, it's for our children and our grandchildren. And maybe also we get to keep our Maui's dolphins and our kiwi, and they will still be with us in 2050. Thank you very much. Kia ora tātou.